Our next speaker is already here, and she's a renowned game UX strategist with over like 16-ish years of experience.
I'm getting old.
Too many. No, you're not. In studios like Ubisoft, LucasArts, you've been the director of UX at Epic Games, for example, for Fortnite. So in today's talk, Celia will explain why developing a code of ethics is necessary and an investment in the games industry. So please welcome Celia Hodent.
Thank you so much. Super. Well, thank you so much for having me, especially talking about ethics is not necessarily easy, but it's going to be for the best, I promise you. So first of all, I am a UX strategist. So for those of you who don't exactly what it means, because UX is a term that we use a lot, but not necessarily understood by everyone, because it's not just about the UI, it's about the whole experience that someone has. So I usually use that slide it's simplifying things, but it's just to express, let's say you're designing a park, and if you're designing a park in a silo without really trying to care about what users want to do with the park, and how they're going to understand it and what their motivations, this is what you would ship. But the users, they do what they want to do, and they don't care about your intentions. And so some users are going to use your beautiful straight path, but others are just going to cut straight through the grass because they want to cross the street and it's faster for them. So this is what we mean by user experience. It's really at every step of when we create something, even from conception and all the way after shipping, we care about what users want, so in our case players, how they understand the environment, how they interact with it, what they do, so that we can offer the best experience possible and the one we intended for them. Because if we wait too late to do that, then we're going to do a patch that is not really going to solve the problem. It's just, patching very quickly, but this is not going to solve for lots of money that we need to do to make this look clean again. So we need to understand that to offer the best experience possible, we need to understand who are humans. Because an experience is happening in your mind. It's not embedded in the experience. The problem with humans is that we are very biased. We go straight to shortcuts. We don't really pay attention to much. So here, you probably jump to conclusion. And most of the time, it works. But that time, it didn't work. And this is what people are going to do. My background is in cognitive science. So it's the study of mental processes. When you are processing information, for example, right now, you're listening to me and you're watching this presentation. This is what's going on in your brain. And it's very simplified, of course, but it starts with the perception of the input. So it's going to be stimuli, visual and auditory stimuli. Then you're going to process that information. And if tomorrow you remember it, it means that you've learned something, hopefully. But what happens is that you're really changing something physically in your brain. So I'm not going to get into the details here because it's not the point of the presentation, but the point here is to understand there's a lot of things going on as we process information, and stuff like perception, attention, and memory are actually very biased and very limited. We can do a lot of things. We're capable of going to the moon, but we're also very limited in our capacities, and UX is all about understanding those limitations and design around them. So we know that perception is subjective, for example. We're not going to perceive the same things depending on our prior knowledge, on our culture. Attention resources are scarce. It's going to be very hard for you to follow this presentation if you're answering emails, because this is not how attention works. We can't really multitask efficiently. And memory is fallible. We don't remember things well. We forget a bunch of stuff, and what we do remember is not necessarily accurate. The problem is that it's not only that we have those limitations, but we are unaware of them. And we say, no, I'm not like this. Yet we are. So UX really, it's a mindset. It's about considering the human factors, the fact that, yes, we have capability, but also limitations. And we take that into account to be much more efficient, much faster in the product that we're developing, in our case, video games. So it's a strategy. It's not something that we do just at one point, and it's not something that's just going to take one user test, what we call play test, at some point, or just in the beta test. We're going to do that, and then, oh yeah, we're just going to UX the game at that moment. It doesn't work like this. So it's a mindset, has 4 pillars. It's human-centered. We care about the humans playing. We want to make sure that they're safe and they have the best experience possible. It's grounded in science. We have opinions, but we treat them as hypotheses that we're going to verify. So that's why we do a lot of testings. It's a collaborative process. It's not just the people with UX in their title that are responsible for it. It's all of us. And it's benevolent. Like really, we care about ethics. We care about accessibility, inclusivity, and all that. And this is why I'm talking about ethics today. So in UX, we can work in UX in tools, but here we are working in UX for the game industry, which is a very specific type of product because it's not just there, it's not solving a problem for users. It's all about making things fun and being engaging to players. And it is extremely engaging. It's one of the biggest entertainment market out there. And we have, some people say we have nearly 3 billion gamers worldwide today. It's like huge. A lot of people love games. So it's also a big responsibility for us to just take that into account. And games are really fantastic. I love working in the game industry because it's really at this intersection of science, in my case, technology, art, production. Like so many different people are working in games, and they offer so many different things. Video games are diverse, rich, and engaging, interactive art form. But also because it's interactive, we also need to think about it in a bit differently than if we think about music or films, because players need to understand how the game works to keep going, otherwise they quit. But we also need to think about, what do we do to engage players and to keep playing. Games also have a lot of potential. Many people today are using the engaging powers of video games to educate, for health purposes, or for social impact. So that's really awesome to see that games have a great potential to change the world, and we all can be a part of it in making the world a better place. Games move us. They can elicit emotions, and like I said, be used for education, health, or social impact. There's a very nice book from my friend Catherine Isbister, who talks about how games move us, and she talks about all the different ways and how we can embed that in game design to move players more. So I invite you to read her book if you're interested in that. But games are also at the center of polemics and moral panics. Some games are accused of making people violent, turn them into addicts. So it's disheartening, especially since most of it is fear-mongering with no solid scientific grounds. So that's why this is really important for me, because I'm coming from an academic background. It's not because we feel that there's a problem that there is actually a problem. We need to measure the problem, understand where it's coming from to really actually say there's a problem so we can address it. So some of it is just moral panics. There's no actual ground science. For example, violence in games. We have decades of research that actually say we cannot link violence in a video game to violence in real life. So beyond the moral panics that do exist, and we need to tell and educate people, okay, no, it's not how it works, there are still genuine issues that we need to tackle to protect our player, businesses, colleagues, and art form. Because games are an art form. It's loved by many, many people. If some people start to compare it to gambling, then it's not good for us. We also see more and more lawsuits, so that's definitely not good for business. And our players don't necessarily feel safe. We have a lot of problems when players are in a multiplayer platform. There's harassment. There's like a lot of things that are happening that are not making the platform comfortable for players and also for colleagues. Many of my colleagues have been harassed at some point by some gamers, and it's sometimes really, really harsh to see that they are afraid to talk about their game because someone tagged it as being woke, and now they're being dumped on by a lot of people on social media. So it's really important to tackle these problems because they are here, and it's not by putting our head in the sand that we are going to solve them. Yes, there are some moral panics, and we need to educate people to separate those, but it's really important for us to address these problems so that we can protect our industry, protect our art, protect our workers, and also protect players. And in my field, what we know is that a design is never neutral. Whatever decision you're going to make is going to influence people. And I've been pestering around at like conference centers are usually not having great UX, and so you're following. I don't know if that happened to you. You're trying to find your way out, and you don't know where to go. You are influenced in how you can find out where to go from point A to point B to, for example, find this room. If you see a handle on the door, you're gonna have a tendency to grab it and pull. So if the door is supposed to be pulled to be open, then awesome, it's a great UX. If it actually needs to be pushed, it's frustrating. It's not the end of the world, of course, but it's misdirecting you and it's misguiding you. And this is just by design. So it's not necessarily on purpose, but here we can see, like, depending on how we design things in certain situations, it's going to be more or less difficult to use. And for some people, it's also going to be more or less difficult to use. That's why we care about accessibility. The way you design things will exclude some people. But there's a certain type of design that are really taking advantage of people. And this is what we call dark patterns. So I don't know if you've been to the talk from this morning from Emma Varjo. She did a great talk on dark patterns. She explained all that. An easy way or simple way to define what dark patterns are, it's a deceiving design that is benefiting a company at the expense of users. This term was coined by Harry Brignall, who is a UX designer, and he created the website darkpatterns.org that became deceiving.design. And it's profoundly anti-UX. Because like I said, UX is really what we care about. It's human-centered. So we care about the users. Yes, if users are happy and they're having a great experience, that's going to be beneficial for the company. That's going to be beneficial for business. But what we don't do is to put business in the middle at the expense of users. So it's profoundly the opposite of what we're doing in UX. So if you're interested into understanding this more, I recommend you a book from Harry Brignall. I think it came out very recently, so last year or beginning of the year, called Disruptive Patterns. And you will, it was explaining much more deeper what that means, or you can check out the website to see a lot of examples. I'm going to use one example here that is not in use anymore. I'm punching up. I'm going to use Amazon. Back in, so that was a few years ago. They don't do this anymore. Let's say that you want to buy something, and so you put stuff in your cart, and then you're ready to check out. So you click checkout, and then you would see that screen. So we know that in UX, we know that, like I said, attention resources are scarce. Most people are not going to read the fine prints. That's why we have what we call call for actions. So typically, it's not working. Oh yeah, well, you don't see it. So another UX problem. The call for action would be, in that case, a big orange button. It's there to draw attention. And in UX, what we want to do is to define through research, we have assumptions, and then we verify through research, that this is really what users will want to do in the majority of cases. So we make that bigger and clearer so that it draws attention, so that's going to be more intuitive and faster for users. Except that in that case, if you do that, you're not just checking out. You're checking out and you're subscribing to Amazon Prime. If you only want to check out without subscribing to Amazon Prime, which you didn't ask for it, you actually need to click on the hyperlink over there. So in UX also, we know that it's called the Fitts law. The Fitts law says that if two buttons are far away from each other, it's going to take more time for users to get there. So usually we try to make sure that it's going to be easier to click on the things that users care about. But here, we might think that it could be on purpose. I don't know. But it seems like it's much more complicated, one, to notice this thing, and two, since you've been clicking here, you have to move away to click on this, and it's also guilt-tripping you a little bit. It's like, really? You don't want to save $19? So we could consider this a dark pattern. because it's benefiting the company, and it's actually much harder to unsubscribe than it is to subscribe. And a lot of people subscribed to Amazon Prime without noticing it. So in the US, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is cracking down a little bit on dark patterns. We have laws in the EU as well that are recent, that are now put in place to protect consumers against this. Beyond the clear dark patterns where it's not clear what's happening because it's not told, on that page, how much is the subscription, what's going to happen. Like in UX, we care about transparency. Like users need to understand what's going on at every step because they need to stay in control. But sometimes there's no real deception in the sense like it's not something hidden. It's just like we play around with the well-known biases that humans have. So in cognitive science, there's been a lot of research to understand those biases. But they've been known by people who sell stuff for a while. Some of the biases that we have is scarcity. If we know that a product is scarce, we don't have a lot of it, we have a tendency to want to buy it, even though we don't need it right now. We experienced this not that long ago with the pandemic. At some point, there was no more toilet paper. I don't know if you remember that. It was like panic on board. And everybody wanted to buy toilet paper, even though that maybe you still had toilet paper at your home. But just in case, we run out of toilet paper, it's going to be like atrocious that we need to buy everything. Scarcity works very well with fear of missing out. Every time there's a sales, fear of missing out is making you buy something because the sales is ending. Like it's amazing discounts you can have, but it's only until tonight. So I don't know. It would be interesting to know how many of you have bought games on Steam during Steam sales who never played them. Yeah, well, it happened to a lot of us. So that's what happened. Like you feel the urge to buy it to benefit from this. Loss aversion is another one that is used in social media, notably. It's we give you something that you didn't ask for. For example, flames. If you talk to someone and that person talks you back, you get a flame, and then it gets incremental. But if at some point you're not replying, then both of you are gonna lose the flames. So it's giving something that you don't necessarily ask for, but then it's threatening people to lose what you've earned if you're not engaging anymore. Air miles are all about this. Like I don't know who started this, but the air companies have been doing that for a while. Like we give you points, but if you don't get to that portion, if you don't level up before the end of the year, you're going to lose all your progression. Another example is the anchoring effect. We see that also a lot in sales. Like we're going to show you an anchor, a price that is big, because we're not good at estimating how much something is. So if we put an anchor like this should be 150 euros, but now, and just for today, it's going to be 99 euros. So that is also encouraging us to buy something that maybe is more expensive than another product that is less than 99. Maybe you have another one similar at 85, but this one you feel that you're making a good deal because it used to be $150, even if in effect, rationally, you're actually paying more. So we start to see these in games on especially anchoring effect, and there's other stuff like around whenever you buy in-game currency. But sometimes it's not necessarily easy to find out, is it dark pattern or good UX? Like here we can say, well, we try to shame a player, like, do you really want to delete that character that you play for so long? But actually I'm gonna say that this is a good UX, because in UX we call that error prevention. People are going to make errors. We need to account for those errors. If by mistake you're deleting a character that you put so many effort and so many days and weeks and maybe months into developing, and just by mistake you deleted it, it's really frustrating. But let's say the character is crying as you're trying to do that, then we can say, okay, now it's starting to become a dark pattern. So what can we do? We can identify potentially shady practices and reconsidering them, especially avoid with minors. Stuff like guilt tripping, creating pressures to drive conversion. Like if you don't come in, or like you're gonna lose all that, or you need to pay to remove some frustration. Loot boxes that are tied to monetization, fear of missing out, loss aversion, punishing disengagement, like it's tied to what I say, loss aversion. If you're not coming back tomorrow, you're gonna lose all your progression with the loots. Autoplay, all of that is playing around with human biases that are well known, and is driving what we call the attention economy. And here I'm guilt tripping you. So this also, we have to be mindful of what we're doing here. The reason why I'm saying it, we really need to avoid that with minors, is because minors are a more vulnerable population. Adults, we are vulnerable. We're not good at resisting those temptations and those frustrations. But for kids and teenagers, it's even worse because the brain is fully mature at 25 years of age. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that is controlling and managing emotions, and this is the part that is the last one in the brain to be fully mature. So not to say at 24 you don't have any control in your emotions, it's just you're learning over time, so the older you get, the better it is. But we know that this population is more immature, and children are protected with by specific rights. So we have the Convention on the Rights of Children, the United Nations most ratified human rights treaty. Children have the right to play in a safe environment. To go back to game has frustrations and pressures by design. If we play a game and if you win immediately, usually it's not fun. So in game design, we are putting pressures and we are putting challenges that are by design to make the game fun and engaging. I'm not saying we should remove that, because sometimes some people say, well, the game is too engaging. But yes, but this is what it's supposed to be. But what we should ask ourselves is, when we're making games or when we're playing a game, are the pressures in the game designed to serve the gameplay and to serve players' interest? Or are they mostly only serving business goals? Are they there to put some pressure so that you pay, for example? So having a UX mindset entails considering ethics. So for us, we care about all these questions. It's compatible with the use of dark patterns. And that's why I started with a few colleagues an initiative called Ethical Games. We started with a draft in 2020. You can find it out on the website, ethicalgames.org. This is how the draft is looking right now. We are in the process of rewriting it, but we cover a lot of grounds, and we are looking at how to protect players, but also how to protect workers in the game industry. It's evidence-based. We've been working with scholars who actually look at what are the real harms so that we can separate from the moral panics. You can check all the conferences on the ethicalgamesconference.org. And we've been conducting some online forums with industry leaders, with educators, with researchers, with policymakers, so that we can try to find out a good code of ethics that can be applicable in the game industry and that would make sense and protect everyone. So we're conducting this in collaboration with KU Leuven's Digital Society Institute. So it's an academic interdisciplinary institute focused on responsible technological innovation. It's in Belgium. And Thriving in Games Group, formerly the Fair Play Alliance, that empowers game developers worldwide with accessible tools and resources to cultivate thriving players' community. So the goal here is to create an aspirational and voluntary code. We're not going to be the ethics police, and we want to build that with all of you so that we can protect players and guide game developers. That's also going to protect our businesses. Because again, this is hurting us also because of all the fines and all the parents that now don't want their kids to play certain games. But if we don't address the problems, it's also hurting our players. So the code is not here to define policies, but it may inform policymakers. And I'm just going to finish with Simone Biles, because I find her very inspiring, not because she's an outstanding gymnast, but because when she felt she was in a bad mental space during the Tokyo Olympics, she had the wisdom to stop and say, this is not going to go well. And despite the fact that everyone had high expectations of her, pushed her like she was part of the team, like you're abandoning your team, she stood by, and then she understood like pushing through and this condition would likely result in failure and injury. And so she did that. She took a step back, and she came back for the Paris Olympics with the results that we know. Like, she got everything. Like, she's like an amazing gymnast, and she got so much gold. And there's a documentary, and she's explaining her journey. And to her, she says that showing up at training every day after Tokyo was the hardest part. As an industry, I believe that we are in a bad space right now, and if we keep pushing through without really fully understanding what's going on, we might hurt ourselves and others. So yes, taking a step back and defining our ethical lines is scary, it's difficult, especially in the current political and economic environment, but showing up is the hardest part. We will figure it out. And if there were any moment in our industry when standing up for our values and protecting each other mattered, this is it. Video games are a unique art form beloved by billions of people across the world. Let's protect our art and passion. I hope that you will join me in this initiative. Together, I think we can make our industry a better workplace and games more respectful to players. Thank you so much for your attention. And I ran out of time.
That was like a
I know.
on time, all the seconds.
So I'll be out if you have questions. You can also, this is my LinkedIn, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to participate into the ethical games. We're also having the Game UX Summit in Antwerp. So very soon, if you're interested in that, it would be awesome to see you. And
yes, and we will see you later today at the closing panel at 5 o'clock.
Absolutely.
So if you have any questions in mind, of course, Celia will be around all day, probably.
Yes.
But we will also save the questions for the panel later today. Ilan Buro will also be there. Soran also will be there. Me. And our host will be Daniel Budiman, a great friend of mine. So it will be a great panel later today, the closing panel at 5 p.m. So thank you, Celia. And we take a short break. And next up is David Helgerson. So stay tuned on the stream, or stay seated, or get a coffee and then come back. And 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.